My name is Michael Bork, and I'm President and CEO of the MEMIC Group. And MEMIC is proud to support the American Heart Association's Hard Hats with Heart program here in Maine. Thank you for joining me as we recognize construction companies in Maine that are making a difference in the heart health of their employees and their families. The American Heart Association is, of course, committed to helping all Americans live longer, healthier lives. That especially applies to the diverse workforces in our construction industry. In construction, 1 of every 4 workers are obese, and 1 of every 4 uses tobacco products. Half don't get enough physical activity. These risk factors are not only detrimental to the individuals and their families by increasing their risk of heart attack and stroke, but they hurt our companies with lost productivity and lost skills. That's why this is so important. By supporting the association, we can help address health problems with critical education, improved access to health care, CPR training, policy and system changes, and of course, cutting-edge research. The construction industry in Maine together has raised more than $50,000 to date through the Hard Hats with Heart campaign, which we celebrate today. More than 10 construction companies participate in this program, and several have stepped up to sponsor as well. Working alongside me this year is a stellar group of 10 construction, design, and engineering leaders. We have joined together not only to invest in the American Heart Association, but also in the health of our workforces. And that's why we're doing this work, to stand up and fight back against heart disease, to save lives of people that we all love. I'd also like to thank this year's sponsors. I would also like to thank Hard Hats with Heart's media sponsor, Mainebiz. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you to all of the Hard Hats with Heart local sponsors. Now get ready to hear about some great successes, and at the end of this video, I'll share with you how you can receive a special toolkit to help your work site be more safe. I'd like to thank you all for taking steps to improve heart health and inspiring others to do the same, and by learning more about the Hard Hats with Health campaign.
I had mitral valve prolapse, so which just basically means the mitral valve in your heart is leaking as blood pumps from one chamber into another. Some of it leaks back into the chamber it came from. It was about 16 years ago that I had this strange incident where I lost my speech. I felt fine. I felt like I was thinking clearly, but I just couldn't speak. And of course, we, did the whole emergency room visit and all of the typical tests you may do, and the head scans and whatnot, and didn't really find a lot. But in the process, in the follow-up process, I underwent a TEE, a transesophageal echocardiogram, and where they actually get a more kind of closer look at the heart by using a device that they stick down your esophagus. And so in the process of doing that, they found this leak. And so whether it contributed to the incident where I didn't have speech or not, they don't really know. They think in the end, they classified it as a TIA, a trans ischemic attack. I've never had one since. And so it was a one-time event, but led to the discovery of this condition that ultimately we had repaired with surgery. I always felt like as a younger athlete in high school, and even as I progressed through the college years, I felt like I should have been in better cardiovascular shape given the work that I was putting in. And so I did have some sort of feeling that something was wrong. And with my team of doctors, the strategy was, let's just keep an eye on it and see if it does begin to have more of an impact on your life than you want. And quite honestly, I was living with it, reasonably well, and wasn't really impacting my lifestyle. But so through the monitoring process, the things they look for, or some of the things they look for anyway, is kind of changes in construction of the heart. And so does it start to enlarge a little bit because it's essentially overworking itself? And because I was monitored regularly, we really saw that change happening, right at the beginning of when it was happening. And so when we started to see that, probably 18 months or so before the surgery, we really picked up the pace in terms of talking about what surgery would mean, how it would, what it would look like and what the recovery would look like. And then decided that, this really is the best time for me to do it. To know you're going to have an open heart surgery, essentially a year in advance, is both a good thing and a bad. It gives you a lot of time to try to prepare logistically the things that your family and your support network will have to do for you. But, it also gives you that period of time where you think about things you don't always think about. One of the things they have you do is make sure your will's up to date, make sure they have it on file, and they talk about mortality rates. And so all of those things, they're not pleasant things to think about. It's reality. But I always felt like I was doing the right thing. I felt like I had the time I needed to prepare, both physically and mentally, but still that emotional component leading up to it it was different. It was different and something that I'm grateful I had the support of my family to go through. I was prepared physically to go through it. And I was prepared mentally for what it might mean. But the other emotional piece and is the recovery. I mean, the recovery is difficult. And going through that process and physically not being able to do what you did before, even though it's for a short time, it's a really strange experience to go through. And you feel weak as an individual through the process. And so to know and to see the strength that you have around you, support you, in the end, looking back on it, was just something that you always knew was there, but when you see it in action, I mean, it really validates so many things in your life that, again, you knew you were there, but you knew they were there, but I just never could have gone through the whole process without the strength of my wife and the kids. And I'm just over a year now out from my surgery and feel really well, both mentally and physically, and truly do look back on it as something like, other than looking at the scar every day, you just don't think about it much, and it is something that was done in your past. So it turns out that the kind of guidelines they gave me were for me anyway, really, really on target. One thing that struck me when I was going through the surgical process and the recovery process while in the hospital is that and again, another instance where I felt lucky, is grateful, is that I was really young. I was the young guy on the floor, and I just saw that it, for people who are a little bit further along in age, it's an even more difficult recovery. As difficult as it was for me, or for younger people, it's really difficult. If you're not young and strong and relatively healthy. So getting on any kind of doubt you have about your health early and speaking with your primary care physician initially and getting the right referrals to professionals who deal with heart issues is if you have any doubt, do it early. I don't think you want to live through something like this and have to go through something like this, but to be on the other side of it, and then to be able to at least speak with somebody and listen to somebody who's dealing with some of the same things that you were thinking about for 16 years, is kind of an interesting experience for me to be on the other side.
So Turner's Wellness Program, we have monthly activity challenges. We have monthly wellness boards. I'm here Monday through Fridays, for any questions they might have, whether it's for themselves or for their families, and just injuries and illnesses. There's actually a board on the opposite wall here that has a lot of your recipes on them. We actually handed out a couple of recipe booklets that you had given us. And then we also use information for our blood pressure, cholesterol checks, stuff like that they can take to their doctor's offices. So we attempted a garden on site. It was a little tricky, not a good place to have it during demo, but we tried fresh fruit and vegetables actually for a couple of months 2 summers ago, which we did actually produce, which was nice, but we have not found a new place for it yet. So every year we go through your process of answering the questions, going back and looking at where we can improve. We improved in community engagement this year, as well as resources available to the workers on site. Having them take the time to take care of themselves. They're all work. They go home, they go to sleep, they come back, they go to work. They don't have doctors, they don't make time for doctor's appointments. They barely stop for injuries. Getting them to slow down and stop and take time for themselves is probably the biggest challenge.
Recent focus has been mental health and substance abuse. Our industry is one of the worst, because when you think about it, I mean, people that travel up to this job are staying in hotels, they're away from their families, working 10 to 12 hour shifts sometimes. Instead of, ignoring it and just getting, straight to the schedule like we used to do, trying to focus on that and providing a resource through our wellness clinics. I mean, the history behind our wellness clinics have really morphed from the first aid, EMT, emergency response, although that's included, to more just having a clinical resource to help people on the job site. The way we advertise Jill during orientation or wellness program is that, listen, you may not have the time to get to your primary care physician. You may not have a primary care physician. You may not be fully knowledgeable in what's provided in your health insurance through your union or your company. So if you're wondering something clinically, go see Jill. This is your resource on this smoking cessation and how costly those patches and the gum can be. The guys have been talking about it and thinking about it. I mean, they perk up immediately and come see you.
Put it in their mind at least.
Yeah, 2 guys recently, 2 iron workers that were traveling. I think one was from Pennsylvania, one was from Georgia. They looked at each other during orientation when we said that and said, "This is great, we can do it." And I was like, "Oh, you guys thinking about it?" And they said, "Yeah." So yeah, right after when they came for their drug test, they got some gum and started the process.
Other visits, they range from glucose checks, blood pressure checks, just sitting down talking to me checks. Sometimes it's via text message or phone or email. They don't feel comfortable, can't find the time to come in to see me, so I make sure they know that's available as well.
We have a program called Active Caring, and it's kind of an addendum to our safety manual where, we try our best to promote a workplace that's free from distractions and, where they can come in and, actually maybe enjoy their day, where that's getting rid of porta johns and having real bathrooms, good break areas with resources, bottle filling stations, that kind of things. We've developed a good program called, Under the Hat, which also has a QR code, and that'll, allow them to go through a screener and kind of give them an understanding of where they may or may not need help. So you can do a general one, you can do a broad one, or if hey, I wonder if my drinking could be problematic. So you can go through that one, and it'll help you assess that. Yeah, I mean, maybe 3 drinks a night is not a good idea, or that you have a healthy respect for alcohol, whatever it may be, and then it links you to resources after a little quick assessment.
We're here to present the Hard Hats with Heart Awards for 2021. The Workplace Health Champion Award is presented to a company that excels at providing resources and education to their workforce. Turner Construction receives this award. They've participated in the Workplace Health Achievement Index and increased their status from bronze to gold. They have implemented an on-site garden to grow fresh vegetables and have an on-site rock star nurse, Jill Schlegel, to help with all aspects of healthy living. Congratulations to Turner and your team leader, Sean Ryan. The Move Maine Award is presented to a company who participates in a local event such as Heart Walk, Cycle Nation, or Field Day, and really brings the fire, meaning they recruited the biggest team by volume. Chenbro receives this award. They recruited well over 56 participants for the 2021 Maine Heart Walk. Congratulations to Chenbro and their fierce team leader, Scott Tompkins. Heart for Maine is presented to the company that raised the most money for a local event. PC Construction has been a longtime supporter, advocate, and fundraiser for the American Heart Association. Congratulations to PC Construction and their amazing team leaders, Michelle Johnston and Mark Donovan. Our Hard Hats with Heart Toolkit will be on the website, providing videos, infographics, and educational information to improve the health and wellness of your workforce. This campaign is made possible by our amazing presenting sponsor, MEMIC, who is keenly aware of the need for this campaign in our state. Thank you so much for your support. I look forward to what we can do in 2022.